Grant?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think we do not have Grant here.
You and I might have to run the show.
Okay, here he is.
There I am. Hello, everyone. I am Grant McGaw, CEO of Five Star BDM, and your host for today's enlightening discussion on the critical role of artificial intelligence in transforming healthcare. And as we explore the integration of AI from a CIO's perspective, I want everyone to take aim at what we're going to delve into from a profound opportunity and the significant challenges it presents in enhancing patient outcomes and streamlining healthcare operations. It is my privilege to introduce two distinguished experts who represent the forefront of healthcare innovation. They include Ronak Shah, representing Agile InfoWays. Ronak has been instrumental in developing and overseeing AI strategies that have profoundly impacted healthcare systems globally. His specific projects, including implementing predictive analytics to improve patient diagnostics and management, underscore his deep expertise in harnessing AI to foster more efficient and effective healthcare delivery. Stephen Travers, CIO of Broward Health. Stephen is a key figure in technology and operations at Broward Health, where he has been pivotal in integrating advanced technological solutions into healthcare practices. His extensive experience in driving operational excellence through technology will provide invaluable insights into the practical applications of AI in healthcare environments. And today we will uncover how AI is reshaping the healthcare landscape, delve into strategies for its integration, and discuss the future of healthcare in an AI driven world. In our session, we'll cover key topics such as AI driven analytics, patient data security, and the ethical considerations of AI in healthcare. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. So, as we embark on this discussion that promises to be as informative as it is transformative, I encourage all of you to use the comment section to ask any relevant questions that may be of interest to you as we move forward. So, our first question is for Stephen. As a CIO in today's healthcare landscape, what factors are driving your consideration of AI integration?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the first items is that we are drowning in data. We switched to electronic medical records in 2008, 2012, somewhere in that range is when it all kicked in. So we have large volumes of data coming from the EHR and other places, and it becomes very difficult for people to take that data and turn it into information that they can actually use. I think, too, when you think about healthcare, we're heavily regulated, and most health systems have a rather large legal team and compliance team that do quite a bit, and AI could really help out with a lot of the compliance and legal reviews that they do. And then, patient care these days is it's patient centered, and so it's not like going to a car factory and you're stopping at each section and everybody gets the exact same service. Each patient that comes in the door has a unique path as they navigate the healthcare services that are there to get out on the other end. And at each step, it's customized for them. That creates a huge opportunity for errors to occur because you're not doing the same thing over and over. Each one is a unique situation. And so AI is something that could really help us out in that arena. And then I think the last one that I kind of had on my ideas was that the workforce. if you look at the number of new births compared to what we had before, we have more people retiring and fewer people entering the workforce. And so the shortages that we have in healthcare on nurses and physicians and support services, all that, that's not going away. It's going to be here to stay. And so instead of really saying how do we find a way to hire more people, we should be looking at how do we find ways for the people that we have hired to make their jobs easier so that they can do the work that they need to do and not have so many individuals involved in it. So those things are some of the big things that are impacting. And when I think of AI, I try to tie it into those operational issues that we run into every day, just about.
I can understand that. It is so critical, especially staff augmentation. We just don't have enough bodies, and not only that, just we're doing those menial tasks that these very intelligent people that we've invested a lot of money into, they've invested a lot of education into. We want to bring their skill sets to the front. I think AI can be a big factor. So I do appreciate you sharing that. I want to swing this over to Rona. And I want to ask, from your experience, what are some of the key areas in healthcare operations where AI can deliver significant value for healthcare operations?
Thank you for the question, Grant, and thank you for the great introduction as well. So AI can really deliver a lot of significant value into the healthcare organization. There are different things that we can consider. One is like clinical decision support system. Like you can have the AI-driven systems designed, and clinicians would be able to make more informed decisions by analyzing the patient data. Their diagnostics is more accurate, and the treatments are more effective, because as Steve said, the every patient is a unique patient. So the data can give a lot of great information to the clinicians, and they can make more informed decisions based on the data. There are AI-based analytics platforms that are also very useful, that can be used by the organization. They can see the operational performance much better. The resource utilization can be viewed. So a lot of strategic planning can be done by using the analytics platform. The most important part we see across a lot of healthcare organization is the predictive scheduling solutions are being designed. So these AI-based systems can give you a forecasting patient demands, like that can give you like what kind of staffing requirements you would need, what kind of resource utilization it's going to take place. So you can do all these predictive scheduling systems designed by the AI systems. Another bigger achievement in this industry is the revenue cycle optimization. Like AI-driven tools has changed the whole billing process. The inventory, sorry, not the revenue leakages. You can identify the revenue leakages, and probably you can even improve the reimbursement as well by using this revenue cycle optimization. Same way supply chain, you are able to predict the overall inventory levels. So even these AI algorithms that can help you based on your patient demand and all those things, they can tell you what kind of inventory you would need moving forwards, and you can meet all of your supply needs and even automate the whole procurement process by using the AI technology. Even the AI tools, like this whole telehealth platforms, like virtual consultation, remote monitoring that is going on, personalized care to the patients are being given again by this AI telehealth platform. We have seen a lot of administrative task automation are going on right now. Like, a lot of our people in the healthcare industry, they do a lot of the administrative task is doing, like, the repetitive task of scheduling and appointments and follow-ups. All those things are being automated. Even the claim processing, a lot of our things are being automated by the AI algorithm. So I'll give you one classic example for one of the company in New Jersey that we are working with on the remote patient monitoring solution that we have designed. We have onboarded about 200 locations for them. This remote patient monitoring solution that we've designed is when patient leaves from the hospital or ICU beds, when they are at the care facility, we monitor the patients by all the different kind of IoT devices. Like we monitor their blood pressure level, glucose monitors, we monitor pulse activities. Now, the biggest problem these healthcare providers were facing in terms of the billing, because even if they're monitoring them, you can't really bill that to insurance company that now we are monitoring them for 40 hours or 100 hours a week. So we automated this whole solution. So let's say when the patient activity levels are changed, there are problems in their activity levels, these healthcare providers get this whole alert solution. When they get the alert, they start treating the patient remotely, and then we've automated the whole clocking system. So the billing is only generated based on the time that they really spend treating that patient, even remotely. It was a big achievement. It creates a big transparency between the healthcare providers, the insurance companies, and the patient as well. So this, as I said, the AI can have a lot many bigger solutions than what we can think right now.
100. I listened to that, and it seems like it's something so far in the future, but it's something that is happening right now. That
Yes.
this digital transformation in our healthcare delivery, not because it's a shiny new object, but it's something that can be utilized immediately to save lives and to help with these operations outside even the clinical roles, all these other things. I know, Stephen, you're very astute to these things, and when you consider these potential benefits, how can a healthcare organization like yours start building a roadmap for AI implementation?
Yeah, I think as we look at it, it's almost like an endless list right now of opportunities for AI. And it reminds me of when I was a kid, I would go to my grandparents' house, and they kept a jar of just spare change. And my grandmother would give us some, and then we would go down the street to there's a little store nearby, and we would go in there, and there'd be a row of candy. So it's chocolates and hard candies, all that kind of stuff. And it's just oodles of stuff. So as a little kid, I'm kind of running back and forth, looking at all the wonderful things that is there. And I want to spend every little cent that she gave me down to the penny. And so we would figure all that up, and we get the candy, and then we would go back. And what is the kid going to do? He's going to sit down, and he's just going to start eating all that candy. And you run into the problem of, as you're eating that candy, you're going to have some chocolate and some caramel, and then you eat a little hard candy of watermelon, and it doesn't really taste good. It's not really giving you the enjoyment that you thought that you were going to get out of it. And so when I think of AI, I feel like that same person today. There's so many choices and so many options for you, and constantly we have people that are bringing great ideas to us. You want to hear them, but you just don't know which one to pick, and you're worried that when you pick one, it's going to be kind of like it's not going to have a good flavor. I think about like the Harry Potter, where they had the different jelly beans that had there, and one was earwax. And so I guess that's probably a good metaphor for it. So when I think about that and how am I going to pick the right solution in that, it really boils down to strategy, and strategy is really a lot of people get it wrong is the issue. And so strategy is it is a diagnosis of a challenge or a problem, and then it's a guiding principles on what you're going to do, things that you will and won't do, and then it's a whole set of these coherent, coordinated, interspersed activities that make up the strategy. And that's why it's hard to copy one company's strategy for another. You could copy Southwest and buy cheap planes and fly out of the smaller airports and all, but Delta and American couldn't do that. And the reason they couldn't do it is because of those intermeshed activities that they've got. And so when I think about AI, a good way to put it is everybody knows the story of David and Goliath. That was 1030 BC. The Philistines were on the field ready to hit. And you think about strategy, this is a great example of how you make a strategy. And so Goliath walks out, and he puts a challenge to King Saul's army, and he says, "I'm ready to fight anybody who will stand up to me." And there's complete silence. Nobody is stepping up for that, because this guy's 9 feet tall, supposedly. He's got big shining armor on. He's got a huge shield. He's got the spear that you don't want to be on the other end of. And so nobody says anything. And then out of the crowd of people, you hear a small voice of a child that comes up and says, "I'll fight you," and it's David. And so he goes. King Saul comes up to him, tries to talk this kid out of it, and realizes he won't be swayed. And so he says, "Here, take my armor. You'll have the best equipment when you go in." And David says, "No, I don't want that. It's going to hold me down, and it's going to take away some of my advantages." So when you think about it, what on earth could this kid have as advantages compared to this big giant of a man? So David runs out on the field, and the battle begins. And so Goliath is coming towards him, and he's running around. He's trying to pick a really good spot because he has this set of rocks in a sling. And he picks a good spot and he starts swinging it around, and then he lets loose, and it hits Goliath right there on the forehead and kills him. And nobody saw that coming. That is a sign of a good strategy, is that as it's occurring, a lot of people don't realize that's what's occurring. But after it happens, everybody's like, "Ah,
Mm.
I knew it. It was easy to figure out. It was very simple." And so when you think about strategy, it's like that. David knew that he was young and fast. He knew that he had been using his sling, his small childhood. He'd been using it all the time, so he was very good at it. He knew that he could pinpoint and hit him. And then the thing he saw that nobody else saw, because they were too busy focusing on his size and his armor, was that his forehead had no armor on. It was completely vulnerable. So he was able to diagnose that. So he diagnosed the problem, which was we have this huge force against us, and we've got to do something. He came up with a set of guiding principles. I'm not going to wear the armor. I'm going to be light. I'm going to maneuver. I'm going to move around. I'm going to use a sling. And then he took action. That's where he ran around, got his stuff. He swung fast enough that it would be a killing blow. And he took aim and focus right there on the forehead, and released it right at the right spot that it could deliver that. And so that is strategy in a nutshell. And a lot of people think, okay, well, that's great. How does that story compare to what we're trying to do? And it's the same thing. It's really, you got to sit down, you got to think about strategy is a lot about choices and trade-offs. There are trade-offs that Southwest did in order to get on the plane out on time and have low fares that were competitive with a bus, not with an airline. And that's the same thing we have to do with AI, is really take a look at what is the strengths of our healthcare organization and what tools there are out there that we can run around with. We don't need to grab the best armor and the shiniest armor and try to fight as other people would do. What we need to do is come up with something unique for us and how it fits in there. And that's where I really think that we're going to start to gain benefit from AI, because we're going to not be a kid running through the candy store grabbing up all the candy we can, and then at the end being disappointed because the candy didn't taste good. We're going to be at the end to where we went through, we looked at it, we made conscious choices, we made choices about what we weren't going to do. So I was going to pick out all the chocolate and not the hard candy, and then you execute that. You do a set of activities, and so that's where I really think people hit. If you're doing a strategic plan which has all these initiatives in there, and then a whole bunch of sub initiatives. If you're doing a template that you got online, you downloaded it from some website, and it says, mission, vision, strategy, goals, all that stuff. That's not going to do it either. And then another one, my wife was actually at a strategy seminar, and there's 40 of them there, and they're not making any progress because it's 40 leaders from a healthcare organization who are all sitting around the table vying for their part of the pie that they want to keep and maintain. So they can't make any trade-offs. That's why that strategy is, they're not going to come out with anything, and it's simply because they are unwilling to make those trade-offs. Typically, strategy, what you want to do is have a small set of people making those decisions. They need to be knowledgeable of the organization, but that can be nimble, it can move, and it can set it up. And then the last thing on that I'll hit is your strategy can fit on one sheet of paper. That strategy I just told you about, David and Goliath, the strategy for how Steve Jobs turned Apple around, the strategy that Michael Dell had when he built Dell out of his dorm room, Those things could be written on a sheet of paper, and when you read them today, you'll say to yourself, "Ah, I knew that all along. That's easy. That was so simple." But at the time, nobody thought it could be done.
Stephen, the way that you put that together, I think our entire audience can understand that vision. They can see where you're coming from. And we are in this scenario of David and Goliath and a lot of these different things. And we understand that our tool that we're trying to utilize these days, that we're focused on right now, is artificial intelligence. But then how do we deploy it? How is it going to be used? There's risk that has to be taken into effect, right? Or risk mitigation. To your point earlier, I might deploy this tool, then that tool might change, and then it's not the same, or the problem may have moved. So there's a lot of considerations. So I definitely like how you shared that story, because it's very, very something to take into consideration. I want to ask Roanoke, what do you see as some of the key considerations for CIOs, thinking what Stephen just took us through? This is his situation. This is his playing field. So when you're selecting a CIO, selecting and implementing an AI solution, what are that initial exploration? What are those key considerations that you would advise CIOs?
Yes. So as Steve mentioned, there are so many different things in this world, like what to consider, where to begin. And like it's really a challenge for CIOs when they decide to start implementing the AI across the organization. But let's talk about some of the key points. Let's say, for example, data management and security is, I would say, one of the key point. Like how is the quality of your data? Because AI solutions rely heavily on the high quality and clean and integrated data. So we need to make sure that the data is accurate and it's standardized. So along with that, how about the data's privacy and security concerns? You have all these guidelines of HIPAA compliance, so you have to make sure that your data really meets those guidelines. Well, when we are talking about this data, let me talk about one of the solution that we have designed right now. It's for a wound analysis. It's again full AI model integration. Let's say for a patient, he has a wound, and they can take the picture of the wound and send it across the system. Now we design these whole AI models and AI integration, which actually does the wound analysis on the fly, and then it would really know that if it's an emergency condition or that can be treated even remotely. And then we have a Google Glass integration, we have a smart bandage integration, we have a thermal camera integration. So a lot of data is traveling through different systems when we are doing this whole wound analysis. So we have to understand, when this data is traveling from one point to second point or second to third before even we get the results, are we really having the quality of data? Are we managing all the HIPAA compliance or privacy? All of those things are very important in this AI world. The second most important part is the clinical integration and validation, like clinical workflow integration. So when you design and implement the AI solutions, it should really seamlessly integrate with your existing clinical workflows. It's very important to make the life easy of the healthcare providers rather than making it too difficult for them to even use it. But at the same time, when you implement the AI solutions, you have to do the diagnosis, or you really have to find out that these treatment decisions this your AI algorithms are giving, you have to do the thorough clinical validation to make sure that your AI is giving you the accurate results. You does not mean that you design the AI models are going to work accurately. So you have to look for accuracy, your reliability, and safety of those by doing the clinical validation. And the third important point is the infrastructure and scalability. Like AI algorithms often require significant computing power and storage capacity. Like, so you really need to be prepared that, okay, we're going to start implementing AI models, but we have all those capacities ready. And the interoperability, like AI, when you design the AI models, that has to work across all the different solutions or the systems that you have in place. So it should be interoperable between all those. And another bigger thing that we have seen recently in the AI world is this ethical consideration and the transparency, because your AI algorithms can perpetuate the biases which is present in the data. and that they are trained on. They are trained on certain level of data that you are giving them, but that data already had the bias present in it. So how do you know that these AI models now are giving you results based on the biases? So you have to implement these strategies to mitigate them. Otherwise, your AI model is going to completely fail. So as I said, there are so many considerations to take place, but I'll stop here with these four main recommendations for the CIOs when they start beginning implementing AI across the healthcare organization.
So many things to think about. And I want our audience to get engaged. We've been talking now 20, 25 minutes. You've been absorbing some of the perspectives, some of the insights. This is an opportunity for us as a community to engage. So I encourage you to write your comments into your sections for Stephen and Ronald, and let's have a valid live conversation so we can move the ball forward responsibly as we go forward in this AI, this new digital transformation era that seems to be on steroids right now. So I'll give you everybody an opportunity to do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask Stephen, as we follow up on, and those are some great insights, Ronald. I really appreciate that. And we think about the potential areas of AI's value. Are there specific areas within healthcare operations that you see that are most ripe for initial AI exploration?
Yeah, I'd say most ripe. It would definitely be some of the generative AI that we have. You see a lot of that being integrated into electronic medical records. We've had some predictive modeling, but it definitely needs to evolve and become much better with some of the machine learning components. And I think for us to think in different ways, that idea where you take a picture of a wound or a bone or something, and then the AI reviews it and lets you know what's going on, if it's improving or something needs to be an intervention of some sort needs to happen. That it's almost astounding, is it not? The idea of simple pictures being able to provide so much information. Why can't the human eye, figure that stuff out? It's I think it's the analytical capabilities of AI that really is able to take it to a different level and see comparisons and all that. So it's I think for that there's just a never-ending component. The revenue cycle, having it where it writes letters and sends stuff off to patients. It might explain your bill in common language. It might explain your bill in a different language. That's good. But we also talked a little bit about bias and all that. And so when you think about the data that the AI is trained on, the AI is only as good as the inputs that it's receiving. We've all heard, for years, garbage in, garbage out. And that's where you really got to take a look at the information there. And I don't think you'd be able to clean up all your data to a level where you would completely remove any type of bias out of it. However, you could take a look at maybe there's something we could do on the other end as it gets ready to give us advice, have it go through some type of filter or something like that. I know the Epic system, which is an electronic medical record system that's very popular. One of their AIs is really looking at letters and notes that physicians write, and it takes a look at it and it tries to put it in an upbeat, friendly tone, because the physician's just typing and or dictating real quick, and they've got 10 more patients to go, or it might be towards the end of the day. So they're not really focusing in on how do I make this a pleasant and happy letter. They're focused in on how do I get this done so I can move to the next one. So the AI also helps with that, of removing that bias of maybe it's not a bias, but being distracted or focused on other things, and ensuring that it does have that friendly bias that you want to have included in there.
I love that. That's one thing I use AI a lot, and sending out emails and things of that nature. And I found it does make it happen quicker. Not to say I take the raw data that comes out of the AI of itself, but then I can then take that as like a template and then massage it to personalize it and then send it out. So it saves me a lot of time. That's just from a like a chatbot type of perspective, but there's so much more. We've all been overtaken by Chat GPT, generative AI, but AI has so many other use cases beyond just from a chat perspective. There's so many other things, like you said, it's like a candy store of different models that are out there that you can use. And I know before we jumped on, me and Ronak were talking about some of the common challenges in healthcare organizations, the things that they face when they're embarking on AI projects or just projects in general, that some of these things can get in the way. So I want to ask Ronak, what are some of these common challenges that you see?
Oh, so there are several challenges that we see. Exactly same challenges from all healthcare organization. First is their data quality, because their data can be really complex. It's a fragmented, and it's kind of often stored in different systems, and then all healthcare organizations, they are scared of this privacy and security concerns because of the HIPAA regulations. They also have a fear of interoperability to make sure that they have a flawless execution across all the different systems. And we already discussed about this ethical bias, because they know that their data may have those kind of bias present in it. So even if they train the AI model, is it really going to be a great AI model output or not? Like, so we designed one solution called Instant Consult, and it's absolutely AI model solution. The way we have designed is the overall concept of the project is kind of an online consultation of the doctors and the patients together. So the patient can come to the system. They will speak to the AI chatbot, and they will schedule it. They can make the payment, and the whole consultation is done through online video and audio call and all. So when this patient actually comes to the system, the AI chatbots are really, really smart enough to find out if this patient is actually in the need of emergency. Does he need to go to the emergency center, or can he really identify the doctor who is going to treat them? So the AI chatbot will ask so many great questions. It will identify the symptoms of the patient, and then it will select the doctor that should treat that patient. So it's a completely auto assignment. So this kind of AI models really eliminates the need of people on the phone or receptionists or administrative people to find out what their problems are and who will be the right doctor. So AI algorithms are actually smarter enough to identify which doctor should be assigned. And then this whole fully assigned thing gets done, and the doctor will do the treatment on the video consultation and all those. But after that, we have a two-way feedback management system. So we really wanted to gather the feedback from the patient and the doctor. So from the patient, when we gather all this feedback, we really find out, like, how the treatment was done. Was it really done to the level that he was looking for, or the doctor was not right assigned? So this AI models designs and decides that, okay, the next time this doctor is not a good fit, we need to change the doctor if there are these symptoms. So it's a lot of adaptive learning at the same time. AI models are also learning at the same time, as the system grows bigger and bigger. And then we have auto call and follow-up scheduling. So the larger solution that we designed, but it relies heavily. Now, other challenges this healthcare organization really face is the lack of AI expertise. They really may not have in-house data scientists or AI engineers, because we have seen these data scientists and AI engineers do not want to stick to the same industry. They always like to work with different domains. So they work with different level of organization than only sticking into the one domain. So lack of that, and there's definitely a lot of knowledge gap, between the. So we always have to merge the domain experts like healthcare providers and the data scientists and AI experts to work together to share the business knowledge so they can design the smarter AI models. And at the same time, we discuss about the validation. This AI model has to go through clinical trials and real-time world evidence to prove it that this model is really working. The two more factors I would highlight, the last two factors is very important, is the high implementation cost. The AI solution can be really expensive. It requires a huge investment in terms of infrastructure, software licensing, or maybe hiring that level of talent. So kind of it gets like very difficult to demonstrate the return on your investment. How do you quantify the return on your investment? Because AI projects in healthcare can be challenging, as the benefits are actually indirect, and it's kind of a long term. So there are definitely challenges, but it takes time to implement, and the results can take a little longer than what you would anticipate right away.
These are very interesting questions, insights that we're getting. And we're getting a lot of questions that are coming back from the audience as well, which is great. I love the engagement. We want to have open and honest discussions about this. Now, along those points that you just made, Ronak, I want to ask Stephen, how can a healthcare organization address these challenges to make sure that you have a successful AI adoption, given all the information we just learned?
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Would you say it's a lot that we've got to do. We just figured out EMRs and somebody had in the chat group about big data and things like that. Where these huge research databases, and then now we've got AI popping in there. It's almost exponential how fast this is growing, and so I think it falls back on some basics. First one, when we talk about data privacy, having a governance group who's governing the AI and what you're working on and how it's going to function, what data that it has access to. I think that's a good one. Healthcare data, the quality at times can be very poor, and it's poor not because the person is just not putting the information in correctly. That happens a little bit with some errors, but in general, it's because of the fast nature and the episodic nature of delivery of healthcare that this data is kind of coming in, and you don't know what that person was going through at that moment as they put it in, and that can create those hallucinations we hear so many things about that's there. So you rely on, the AI will figure out what's the good data, what's the bad data. Well, it doesn't. It's probably not going to do that at this stage. One day I can see AI doing the cleanup, to be honest. And then he hit on the skills and the domain experts. For me in a healthcare organization, we're retooling a lot of our IT jobs, and we are actually creating AI jobs that are focused on that. And I think about cybersecurity. When a few years ago, the IT departments didn't have a cybersecurity group. You had people that would talk about logins and passwords, but you didn't have anything related to cybersecurity. And now you look at where the universities have gone, all the boot camps and certifications. There's a large supply of cybersecurity professionals out there that weren't in the market before. And I think we're going to see a similar pattern pop up for AI. I think as the universities get in there and as you have more certification programs as they mature, you're going to get a lot more of a workforce, and you're going to see IT departments, morph to where they have a mixture of development and databases and analytics and AI, and all that's going to be tied together for it. And then I think the other thing that I'd considered was scaling is an issue. So how many times have we put a system? We did this recently, and we moved a bunch of users onto a different citrus farm that we had, and that farm wasn't scaled up to where it needed to be. And so instantly those folks started calling in saying, it's super slow. This isn't working for me. I can't get my job done. And you think about AI, this is, this cognitive computing that we're going to be doing isn't just adding a couple of numbers. Computers are very good at that. But AI requires a special chip. You look at NVIDIA and what they did for graphics and 3D rendering, it's been kind of morphed into this AI piece. And they had a recent show that I watched on YouTube from the CEO talking about some of their new platform items. And they're really focusing in on building these computers that are optimized for running AI programs. So it's still, I think, in the early stages for that. And so when we try to think about how can we scale, that's going to become a real issue. And you don't want to just leave it up to, well, I'm using Amazon or Microsoft and it's automatically going to scale. Nobody knows that yet. And so as we get more widespread use of these tools, I think that's going to become a real concern. I think about an example that's similar is Bitcoin. Remember Bitcoin when it first came out, you could do some mining and get some coins very easily in the beginning because there weren't that many coins. But as each piece with the blockchain, as that grows, and they issue new coins to the miners, who then get it back into circulation, the amount of processing power that it takes today to process a transaction compared to, several years ago, is much higher. And that's where, there's now concerns about the environment on these huge data centers. And, Google's talking about putting their data center under the ocean so that the heat can be dissipated. But then, what are you going to do to the fish and wildlife? We're heating up their backyard. And so there's just a lot of things beyond just how do we use the technology and how do we keep data private. There's going to be a lot of just basic operational things that really hit.
These are big things to consider. They're huge. The impact. We are fundamentally changing the human experience, as we can see in the AI use and what it would look like. You talked about the compute power, storage power. And I don't think a lot of people realize how these things actually work in the background. How do we get this instantaneous result? And it's a lot. It's a lot of gyrations of small computers doing a big job in the background, which is a lot. This is a game-changing concept. One of the questions that came in, they're talking about big data. They talk about the initiatives that were in the 2000s, the 360 view, the experience of some of these challenges in AI. And the question is, as we've seen technology change over time, and that some of these things will work, some of these things didn't, do you think AI as a technology, and this is a question for either of you, and I think I'll point this one over to Rona, because you see this, especially on that global scale. Like, the question is, how do you feel that this particular technology is fundamentally different at this point?
So definitely, so there are this technology rely heavily on a lot of different things. As Steve mentioned, the way the Bitcoin was processing was different. Now it really needs a huge computing power. So this technology relies heavily on the top processing power. So that's really needed. The way it is changing the whole world, it relies on the really key data. Like, what kind of data are you using? The data is a hard, you have all these AI data scientists and all those people, but are you able to even give the right data? Like, where are your data governance framework? Where is your quality assessment? Where is your standardization? And the biggest part is the scalability of the whole solution, because forget about using these small servers here and there. That is all gone.
Yeah.
Like, your AI system is gonna really bog down your all systems, if you have everything on premises. So you have to be prepared for the cloud-based systems integration, because at any given point of time, it can take up all of your processors and use it, and then all of your other systems in the healthcare system would go down. So these
Mhm.
AI funnels are coming in, but they are bringing bigger challenges for everybody. Where do you invest? Do you invest in talent? Do you invest in technology? Do you invest on cloud? Where do you invest? How much do you invest? You don't even know how much you're gonna even. I talked about the ROI. When would I get the ROI, return on in my investment? At what point? There is no way to quantify that. You probably have to design different strategies, as Steve told, and focus on maybe a couple of areas to begin with. You can't have all the candies together and then you do not enjoy it, right? So that's, I would say, the AI funnels are definitely whole different as of now.
I love that. I love that answer. Love that answer. I want to have this one. This came in, and it's clinically related. So I'm going to ask this to Stephen. And they stated, just like mental health practitioners, AI also possesses therapeutic potential for mental health disorders, for example, depression, anxiety, relaxation, things of that nature. The question is, will this be, or how do you feel about emotional intelligence in artificial intelligence, sentiency, or they are augmented, I think they're calling it now artificial generative AI, that there is more of general intelligence around this. What are your thoughts around that, Stephen?
Yeah, I think as I kind of read the question, I was kind of thinking about emotional intelligence. It includes a big key piece around empathy. And
Yeah.
so, how can you artificially create empathy and concern for others? And artificial intelligence lacks emotions that are there for it. And so, I think I don't know if AI at this point would be able to do a lot with that. We talked a little bit about generative AI, where it could make your text a lot nicer and all of that stuff. But I don't believe that the AI is really understanding anything about that. Where a human, as a manager, somebody that's strong in emotional intelligence, is able to kind of pick up on social situations, cues, body language, experiences that they've had. And so I don't see AI at this point doing that. Doesn't mean it can't do it in the future, but that's there. And that kind of brings up the whole idea of the future. We're going to have a world of AI and humans coexisting, doing things together, and it's right around the corner. You see some of the robots that they're building. This is stuff we saw as kids on TV and cartoons and that, as this futuristic thing like the Jetsons or whatever. But it's here today on a lot of those things. And so when I think about how all that's going to impact jobs, you really got to think, how do you take the work that you do and move it to where you're doing more. So there's an idea of this a knowledge funnel. And so at the top of the funnel, you have these things called mysteries. And then as knowledge moves through the organization, you have heuristics. And at the bottom, at the lowest level, you have algorithms. And so as knowledge comes into that funnel and goes down, you have these mysteries, which are problems that you're facing that you've never seen before and you don't know how to solve them. That's where humans and experts can really do a lot with that. And then when it moves into heuristics, I think that's where you got rules of thumbs for how to deal with stuff. And I think you're going to have a mixture of AI and humans solving those problems and working those out. And then at the bottom, you have algorithms. The computer is going to beat us hands down on processing a process or a set of things to do if it can be digitized. And so as we look at it, you want to be at the top of that funnel. You want to be focused on mysteries and heuristics. And if your job today is one where it's based on an algorithm, it's ripe for disappearing here into the future.
I love how you said that. I see that happening. I've been in information technology for 20, 25 years. Information. So like an algorithm, right? But intelligent technology is a whole different ballgame. And that intelligence is what is valuable. Your intelligence, your knowledge, your awareness, your consciousness, very, very valuable. Very, very hard to simulate. Anybody could stand in front of a mirror and you'll see a likeness of yourself, but that's not your total self. Those are the things I think we need to consider these things. But to your point, it's an opportunity to upskill. That's the way I see AI. And being able to take some of that mundane information, just like a calculator. You can sit there and do complex math if you want to. It might take you some time, but I can actually stick it in the computer and get it pretty quick. But those are things we need to consider.
Yeah, I think too on that question, if I could, Grant, a bit with the emotional intelligence. That's where I think at the top part of the knowledge funnel with the mysteries and understanding those so that we can turn those into heuristics. That's where I think humans could really shine for that area. So, and I could be completely wrong. Somebody could probably in the audience could say, no, that's not correct. But that's my opinion of it.
I've been around machines a long time. There's no sentience there. There's simulation, very good at simulation. They could simulate a lot of different things and make it feel and act like, that type of thing. But that's mimicking.
Siri told me she liked me the other day.
Exactly. So we need to understand that. But I do think it's an opportunity for us as far as the human community to actually get deeper into our knowledge and our decision making and in the ways that we can actually become more insightful. That would be better for us, I think, in the long run. Now, Ronak, you mentioned something around data readiness as a key consideration. And I've heard this a lot of times. And I know I've been around data warehouses, data storage. I look at my own compute, and as far as information I have there, old pictures, videos, text, a bunch of stuff. Some of this is just garbage. Some of it isn't. But can you elaborate on specific steps healthcare organizations can take to ensure that their data infrastructure is prepared for AI integration?
Sure, sure. As I said before, the data is actually the heart for the AI models, even for the healthcare organization. So first of all, you need to make sure that your data governance framework is in place. What that means is like you should have a robust data governance framework which defines the clear policies, the procedures, and the responsibility of managing and safeguarding this whole healthcare data, along with the security and compliance. And this data quality is a key essential. There are so many of inconsistencies that we see in the data, inaccuracies or missing data that could really affect this AI integration. And same way, you have to have a standardized data formats, the coding systems, the terminology to make sure there is a consistency across the all data in different systems that are one organization could have. And along with that, the data integration part, because you have data coming from the EMRs, you have data coming from medical imaging system, laboratory systems, or even from wearable devices. You are collecting data all these different points. You have to make sure this integration is pretty standardized and smooth across, even if the data is flowing from one point to another point, or you're gathering to a central system. And then also the data storage and infrastructure, we talked about that. You have to make sure your data capacities or computing and storage facilities are flexible and scalable. Now, most important part is defining the data access and sharing policies. You have to have clear policies across the organization and the procedures for accessing and sharing this healthcare data, even to the AI projects. Not the AI team can come and take any data that they want. There has to be policies in place when they're using this. And sometimes, you are sharing this data to third party AI models or whatever. So these policies needs to be in place. So I would strongly suggest to even have the data lifecycle management. So there is management strategy that really addresses the how the data is being collected, how is it stored, how is it processed, or does the analysis on it, or maybe how it is archived. So this whole data lifecycle management should be in place for every organization. And I would say strongly as a continuous monitoring and improvement. You have to monitor and evaluate your AI models to make sure that they regularly update based on the quality of the data that you're providing. Because you gave a great data, but the AI models are not updating by themselves, then it's again a problem. So those are the things that I would strongly suggest. So we are integrating one very large wellness care system right now in Singapore, and some of the larger hospitals in India. And these all AI models that we have designed, they really are heavily dependent on the different types of patient data. So patients, we define the patient's goal, and based on that, we design these AI models, which is gives us the full predictive analysis. And then we are able to train the patient. We design their roadmap or the journey of their next few years, like what they needs to do in order to achieve this. So the AI models are really great as long as you give them all the great data and buy through the data governance framework policies.
Man, that's great knowledge, great information. We've got time for one more question. I'm going to ask this to Stephen. This is coming from Krista Hawk. Do you believe the biggest opportunity in healthcare is around enhancing the clinical expertise, meaning the workflows, or the administrative components, such as patient access, experience, revenue cycle, things of that nature? What is the improved operations between payer, provider? What are your considerations or insights around that particular question?
Yeah, that's a good one because very often from my position is we've got work we do on rev cycle, which is a lot of times separate from the work that we do on the clinical side. And so as we look at a strategy for where we're kind of focusing our effort, I think for me is if I was going to be a patient, I would definitely want the AI focused on the clinical side for it. And then I think somebody that's a CFO who's looking at how do we reduce the cost of labor, they're definitely looking at how do we use it for the patient access and other things that we could automate so that we could, with the smaller number of people we currently have, because there's several open positions in rev cycle and patient access. Those are hard to fill. And so how could we do more with less? So that one teams up more with automation. And I think for the clinical side, it's really around having this little AI agent that's sitting on your shoulder. And, the doctor is still doing what they do and using the brain and the experiences and the things they pick up on to treat the patient. But the AI helps them with the heavy workloads that they got. They're tired from, they were on call last night. They had to admit a patient. They had to do various things. And so it helps with that fatigue, that mental fatigue that they run into. Because you think about us as knowledge workers, we come in and we work on a couple things throughout the day. A physician might come in and work on, have to change their thought pattern for, 20 or 30 different people that they're treating and working with. And so that's constantly changing the context, and you have to wipe that part of the memory to think about the other. And that is very taxing and tiring. And I think for AI to do it, that it would really be a big help for that. So if I only could pick one, I would lean towards the clinical side, because I think that would have the bigger impact on quality of life for folks. And then definitely we don't want to forget our friends in finance and revenue cycle and all that, because I think there's vast opportunities for patient access and revenue cycle to automate a lot of what they do, so the people that are there who are working this every day can focus on the bigger picture items that are there, as opposed to simply pulling something from a queue and processing it and working it. The AI can do that. What they can do is monitor those exceptions that come through, things that they could do around customer service that could link up to the clinical side. There's a dozen things that they could do in addition to getting rid of all that rote daily in and out stuff.
That's the thing. Get rid of some of the blocking and tackling at the very end, that we can really elevate our workforces. Because as we started this conversation talking about, we have a strained workforce and we've got to do more with less. And this is a way of doing that, but carefully moving forward. I want to thank you two gentlemen for sharing your knowledge, your insight, your experience with the audience. I want to thank the audience for their insightful questions. We had a number of different people to tune in to this particular session. This is a part one. I should say it's a two-part webinar. One, we wanted to get the CIO perspective that Stephen so aptly gave us. We need to understand what this looks like, because you've got to make the decisions of what you're going to do and how you're going to enable this kind of technology or not, and be very careful about that. And I think you did a great job of telling us the stories. We'll never forget the stories that you told. And I think that's very, very good. Second part will be, we're going to get the CEO perspective from a Health Choice Network. That'll be with Alex Romelio. So important to understand that. If you're not familiar with Health Choice Network, they help federally qualified health centers throughout the nation. So they're on the ground when it comes to, what does it look like from a community health center, and how can you implement different kind of solutions that can help with better clinical outcomes, just like what Stephen just said. How do we get better clinical outcomes? And then having Ronak Shah available to us, talking to us from a global perspective. We don't always know what's going on in other countries like the Philippines or in India and other locations, and how they're looking to implement a lot of these different solutions. So we can learn a lot of what is working, what is not working, how we can get things done effectively. So again, I want to thank you both for being a part of this part one series. I want to encourage the audience to return for part two. And if any of the questions that came up that we didn't get around to, we will respond to them So just pay attention to the comment section in Agile InfoWays, and we'll get those questions answered. So thank all of you for being on the show today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Thanks, Steve.
Yep, appreciate it. This was fun.
Always is. We'll see you soon.
See
Thanks,
you.
Steve.
Take care.